You know, if you told me I'd start off a video by quoting Brian Bosworth about a year ago, I'd take that bet and run to the bank. But here we are because the transfer portal is out of control. Thank you, Dr. Pepper and Fansville. Over 1,500 players are looking for their next destination, including former LSU wide receiver CJ Daniels. After a breakout season at Liberty, he had less than stellar results down in the Bayou, but he's got one more year of eligibility and he wants to get back to being the alpha. Probably going to be the veteran in a young receiver room. So who is the best fit for the 6'2" Georgia native? Let's break it all down. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode, and smash subscribe because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Give us a follow on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. The holiday season is right around the corner, and what better gift to give someone in your life than a RHOBACK pullover, a RHOBACK fleece, a RHOBACK hoodie, a RHOBACK pair of shorts, a RHOBACK pair of joggers, whatever you see fit. Go to RHOBACK.com and you can use the promo code SECU at sign up for 20% off your first purchase. Promo code SECU for 20% off at RHOBACK.com. The holidays keep on giving, and SEC Unfiltered wants to give to you. CJ Daniels was a guy I was really, really high on. I thought that he was going to be a difference maker opposite of Kyron Lacy. I thought he was going to be a security blanket on the outside for Garrett Nussmeier. It was a big reason why I put faith that this was a year we would have to be paying attention to LSU's offense. And lo and behold, his results were less than stellar. He finished fourth on the team in receiving, only got 42 catches, 480 yards, never found the end zone, averaged 11.4 yards per play. Aaron Anderson stepped up big. You had Kyron Lacy step on up big. Mason Taylor had a really big breakout year, and they went 8-4. Still, there's enough for me to like about a guy like Daniels to be a complementary piece in any offense. You got to remember, go back to his Liberty breakout year in 2023. 55 catches, career high. Over 1,000 receiving yards, career high. 19.4 yards a catch, career high. 10 receiving touchdowns, career high. And so in the right system, with the right quarterback and building off of the consistency that he had last year down the SEC, I think that there's a lot to like about a guy like CJ Daniels being a part of a team. So what best fits for him in the conference? Let's start off with the easy one. And actually for me, this is the one I think he lands at. How about Ole Miss? What do we know about Ole Miss? They are a transfer portal destination. More importantly, they're a transfer portal product and proof of concept. It works. Players that walk on in leave as Sunday standouts. They're going to be fixtures for the Rebels, but by the end of the time, we're talking about them and what they will do at the next stage of the game, what they will provide. Trey Harris is that way. Jordan Watkins is that way. I'm not really sure we can say that about Juice Walls, but you're going to miss as much as you're going to swing and connect. Dayton Wade had a big-time year. Caden Prescorn had a big-time year. Dayton Wade in 2022, Caden Prescorn last year. Regardless, this is a team that needs a complementary piece. They're losing their three top targets. Caden Lee is back. That's a good start. But do you feel like that he can be the difference maker, the X factor? They're going to bring in more than one wide receiver transfer. Maybe it's Berrien Brown. Maybe it's Dane Keen. Why not CJ Daniels? A guy that can win at the point of attack because of his size, good catch radius, decent route runner, has some physicality to his overall standard. And now we'll have an opportunity to play against LSU and be on the opposing sideline and say, listen, I'm better used in this system. You also know for a fact that if Garrett Nussmeier doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean that Austin Simmons can't. That one drive in the Georgia game was enough for you to say to yourself, well, we got something to cook with here. I'm not saying that you give the job to Austin Simmons, make him earn it the way that Jackson Dart did when they brought in Spencer Sanders, but by making him have a relationship with a budding star and somebody that also I think can be a pretty solid fit for an offense that Lane Kiffin wants to run. I think it would at least make sense for them to have some conversations and probably meet on a recruiting visit. Auburn's got to be in play. Now, why does Auburn have to be in play? Because they do have some young talent. Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman's a stud that I don't think got enough credit this year because of who's the head coach? Hugh Freeze. Freeze was the one that brought CJ Daniels from Georgia up to Lynchburg, Virginia. He was the one that offered him a scholarship. He was the one that saw the developments of him. And while he wasn't there for the breakout year, he knew that it was in the works. And you saw the numbers continue to impress over time. In 2021, he had 629 yards. He had 7 touchdowns. So in a similar system, there's a lot to like about this. The other thing that's really important, what if a quarterback reunion is in the works? So Caden Salter, the former Liberty quarterback, is looking for his next destination. He is expected to meet with Hugh Freeze. It's not the only place he can go. He's going to look at Syracuse. He's going to look at Louisville. He's going to look at, I think Missouri was on that list. I think there's Iowa on that list. But he's going to meet with Hugh Freeze. I can see a scenario. Indiana was the other team. I can see a scenario where they land Hugh Freeze and say, let's run it back. Let's run back that flaming fire mentality that we had when we were up in Conference USA and bring it on down to the Plains. He gets to be what Keandre Lambert-Smith was this year. And we all thought Keandre Lambert-Smith was going to be a number 2. He ended up being the go-to weapon for Peyton Thorne. What if that's Salter? You don't have to worry about relationship. These two got the Flames to an undefeated season and the Fiesta Bowl, where they proceeded to get their asses beat by Oregon, but that's not the point. They still got to the Fiesta Bowl to begin with. So any conversation that you can have pairing a quarterback with a wide receiver that already have a good connection and great chemistry, I take that 10 times out of 10. Florida's got to be in play. Why is Florida got to be in play? Because you got a young gun, you got a stud, you got a superstar in DJ Lagway, and he needs weapons. Elijah Badger, he's on his way out. Shamir DK, probably on his way out. I think that Trey Wilson is going to be back. Aiden Mizell, I think, is going to have a big-time role in 2025. But I still feel like you need that veteran. What was kind of a blessing in disguise for DJ Lagway? 2 former standout number 1s at their respective schools that came on in for their final year. Shamir DK and Elijah Badger. That could be CJ Daniels. You bring in another receiver. Maybe it's a Dane Key. Maybe it's a Barry Brown. Maybe it's the UNC kid that just went in the portal today. Regardless, you bring in a guy like Daniels. He is now your vertical threat. He is somebody that's going to take the tops off of defenses, and he's going to allow a guy like DJ Lagway to uncork one and make plays left and right. So I feel like that at least has to be a part of the conversation if you're building Napier. They're going out and they're bringing in transfers. They're looking at wide receivers. They're looking at tight ends. I feel like you got to look at a guy like CJ Daniels. It just would make too much sense. South Carolina is the exact same thing. I won't spend a lot of time on it because I don't think he goes to South Carolina. But Mazeo Bennett and Nick Harbor, they're 2 up-and-coming studs. I want a proven commodity. CJ Daniels is a proven commodity. I want somebody that is not afraid to be that X-Force downfield for Lenore Sellers, who's looking to build off of a successful 2024 season. They want to get better in the passing attack. They want to make it more dynamic. Mike Shula's calling plays. When Mike Shula was working with Cam Newton, guess what? Symphony. Harmonious. They also had really good wide receivers out in Carolina. So you got to at least have that conversation, bringing in somebody. Maybe CJ Daniels is that guy. The last thing to pay attention to is probably an obvious one. It's Georgia. Now, why? For starters, homegrown talent. Guy grew up in Lilburn, let's try that again. Lilburn, Georgia, 6'2", played out in high school there, was not looked at by Kirby Smart. But what have we seen Kirby do over the last several seasons? He's gone into the portal to bring in complementary pieces, whether that be a Colby Young, whether that be a RaRa Thomas, whether that be a London Humphreys. He's not been afraid to swing into the portal. And he's not going after guys from smaller schools. This probably would be a moot point if he's coming on in from Liberty. But he played at LSU. Colby Young came and played on in after his time when he was at Miami. You watched as London Humphreys came on in from his time at Vanderbilt. You watched as RaRa Thomas came on in from Mississippi State. And Dominic Lovett came on in from Missouri. These are programs that understand the lay of the land and the physical mentality that you have to be a part of this system. If they change the quarterback, you got to get a big playmaker for a young quarterback. We don't know who's starting next year. Maybe it's Gunnar Stockton. Maybe they go in the portal. Maybe it's Jaden Rashada. But it's not going to be Carson Beck. You got to give him a weapon. And more importantly, you got Arian Smith. If he sticks around, you feel really good about having a complementary piece with some young up-and-comers from this last recruiting cycle. I don't think Georgia ultimately lands him. I think he goes to Ole Miss because it just makes too much sense when you look at the concept. That is college football transfer portal success rate. But I do think that it has to be on the radar. Every single offseason we have watched as Kirby Smart has added in at least one more player, added in one difference maker at wide receiver. Maybe it's only for a handful of plays, but they're on the roster. Going to play in front of your hometown crowd for your final year, potentially being that number 1 X weapon for Gunnar Stockton, for Jaden Rashada, for whoever's playing quarterback for you next season, being a reason why Georgia's back in the college football playoff hunt, that's pretty enticing for anybody that grew up at the Peach State. That's pretty enticing for anybody that believes they get to go ahead and close out their tenure on a high note. It doesn't get much higher than Georgia. That's probably the standard of college football. Let me know in the comment section down below, where do you think CJ Daniels ultimately lands? Do you think that he is a good fit for Ole Miss, for Georgia, for South Carolina, for Florida? Where would you have him land in 2025? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. Peace.